Hello everyone. Today in this lecture, we'll learn about the various projects of pre-independence era. When we talk about these various projects, we need to understand the objectives and importance of these projects. Over a period of about 70 years, number of rural development experiments and programs were conducted in India. Long before the introduction of the government managed extension system at the national level in 1952, there had been sporadic attempts in developing the rural life. Knowledge of the early extension efforts shall serve as a useful background in understanding the development of systems in India which were under extension. The early extension efforts had two distinct patterns. First, they were attempts by some renowned personalities and private agencies to improve rural life. Second, attempts were made at government level to initiate some projects to solve the pressing problems in agriculture. When these experiments, these projects were conducted, there existed certain conditions like agriculture was the primary occupation to a large percentage of population, which were extremely low purchasing power, lack of application of science and technologies, lack of understanding about the natural resources, especially the flora and fauna of the region, lack of socio-economic organization, and the numbers of problems were there which the people of rural societies were facing that time. These realities are to be remembered before understanding the past rural development works. When these experiments, these projects were conducted, these were implemented, colonial rule was existing. So when we talk about these various projects of pre-independence era, I am going to enlist here the first Sri Niketan project. This was introduced by Sri Rabindranath Tagore ji in 1914. Sri Rabindranath Tagore wanted to develop a center to extend his ideas on education in a rural city. During 1914, he established a rural reconstruction institute at Sri Niketan involving youth from a group of 8 villages. It maintained a demonstration farm, a dairy and a poultry unit, an outdoor clinic, a department of cottage industries, and a village school. These were various areas where Sri Rabindranath Tagore ji has majorly focused. These agencies were to treat the villages as their laboratory, to identify their problems and to test their ideas. The villagers were expected to approach these agencies through the village workers to obtain solution of their more pressing problems. These social workers lived in villages and worked with the involvement of people. At Sri Niketan Center, agriculture, dairy and poultry were the foremost activities. Scheme of land development and tree plantation were given due importance. Experiment on paddy, sugarcane and cotton were undertaken. Improved seeds, vegetable seedlings, fruit grafts and saplings were distributed. New breeds of cattle were introduced. Local artisans were trained in cottage industries. Other activities were village scout movement, village developmental council, health, cooperatives, circulating library and village fairs. If we talk about this project, so I want to mention the drawbacks of this project. There are two drawbacks of Sri Niketan project. The first is this institute could not get government help and supported as it was initiated by Sri Rabindranath Tagore ji himself. So there were no government help and support. The second drawback was it could not do research work, and therefore the program remained limited to only those 8 villages from which the group of youth were taken as volunteers. The second project in the same pre-independence era is Marthandam project. This was launched in 1921. During 1921, under the auspices of Young Men's Christian Association, the abbreviation is YMCA, Marthandam project was started at Travancore in Kerala by Dr. Spencer Hatch, who was an American agricultural expert specialized in sociology. Fundamental aim of this program was 5-fold development of physical, spiritual, mental, economic and social. Dr. Hatch implemented an all-round development in agriculture, public health and education. In this center, prize bulls and goats, model beehives, demonstration plots for improving grain and vegetable seeds, poultry with prize laying hens, a weaving shed, number of these activities were maintained. It also worked for improving literacy. On weekly market day, it set up a portable tent with teaching equipments and exhibits with better poultry and livestock. The center also promoted the cooperatives. The society developed the improved breeds of egg layers and good bees. It assisted the people for marketing their produces through cooperative organizations. In 1939, the egg selling cooperative society became a self-governing body. Another society, Honey Club, was also formed. This society cured the honey brought by villagers and marketed cooperatively. There were bull clubs, weavers clubs, etc. Number of clubs were made, and these cooperative organizations are still continued by YMCA, and the rural development is taken up intensively. Now the third project of the same era was Firqa Development Project. Gandhian ideals of simplicity, non-violence and sanctity of labor did not only evoke response in the northern parts of the country, but also in the south, where a government-sponsored scheme, it aimed at the attainment of the Gandhian ideal of Gram Swaraj by bringing about not only educational, economic, sanitary and other improvement in villages, but also by making the people self-confident. So this project focused on all aspects which were related to rural people of rural societies. The scheme was launched in the last quarter of 1946 in 34 firqas throughout the state, and on April 1st, 1950, it was extended to another 50 additional firqas at the rate of 2 firqas for each district. The section of the firqas was based on considerations of the general backwardness of the area and the possibilities for initiating the production of handloom cloth and other cottage industries to give a fillip to rural reconstruction. Like any other Gandhian scheme of rural reconstruction, the scheme too aimed at attacking the rural problems as a whole, as well as in parts consisted of short-term plans for the development of rural communications, water supply, formation of panchayats, organization of cooperatives and programs for sanitation, as also long-term plans to make the area self-sufficient through agricultural, irrigational and livestock improvements. The development of khadi and other cottage industries to make the rural life sufficient. And the next project of the same era in your pre-independence era is Gurgaon project. This was launched by Mr. F.L. Bruin, who was posted as Deputy Commissioner of Gurgaon district in 1920. He was moved at the uncertainty of rainfall, abject poverty, filthy dwellings, ill health, ignorance, illiteracy of the rural people. With a view to improve the living conditions of the rural people living in Gurgaon district, he involved a new technique of village development called the Gurgaon experiment. This was, in other words, the practical application of the principle that the central figure, which was the villager himself, must be made to take greater interest himself and in his village before any results can be achieved. The government agencies should do more to combine and coordinate their activities in order to assist, help and guide them. The Gurgaon scheme claimed to deal with the whole life and the activity of the peasant and the family and to present the complete remedy from the terrible conditions in which he lived. Objectives of Gurgaon project was to jerk the villager out of his old groove, convince him that improvement is possible, and kill his fatalism by demonstrating that both climate, disease and pest can be successfully fought. He must be laughed out of his uneconomic and unhealthy customs and taught better ways of living and farming. Further, the secrets of our success were to deal with the whole of village life, to take the whole district as a field of operations and to deluge the areas with every form of propaganda and publicity that we could devise or adopt or afford. Uplift is a mass movement, a combined assault, and no area, no part of the life, and no method of attack can be neglected. So these were the four projects we have learned which were taken from pre-independence era. Hope you all will be liking this lecture and hope you will be learning a lot about this lecture and these projects. Thank you everyone.